they don't understand it is because it's a mental illness, and when people can't see an illness, it's just they find it difficult to understand. Right, so it's about this episode I'm answering the question why addiction doesn't look like what you think. And a lot of people, and I've been speaking about these past couple of days to be fair, because I was doing an internal podcast which was really good for my work, and then I also did a webinar today for other people, other work organizations. And I think the whole stigma around addiction and the way it's been perceived in media, in books, in just everything is that, and it is obviously addiction is this, it is also this, but it's that person on the park bench, homeless, just like somebody who's hasn't washed and all of that stuff, and that's how it's perceived. But it just, there's so much more than that. I was an addict, but I was a functioning addict, and I had a job, I had a nice flat, I looked after myself, do you know what I mean? So I didn't look like that typical addict. And I'm just talking about the physical side of things, and the external things. But addiction can come in so many different ways, and because it could be gambling addiction, substance abuse, sex, love, relationships, your phone, for God's sake, shopping. Do you know what I mean? Like, addiction can come in so many different ways, and the reason why it comes in so many ways, and I think where people get it, they don't understand it, is because it's a mental illness, and when people can't see an illness, it's just they find it difficult to understand. And I fully believe addiction is a mental illness. It's a thinking disease. It's our brains are just wired differently, and we become obsessive, we are compulsive, and we'll do whatever we need to do to get that fix, especially when we're in active addiction. And when I say obsessive, in my last 2 years of using, when I was like bad, it was every hour of the day. It would be in my head, when can I get my next bag? It was just constant. And the worst thing about addiction when you're in that is also the denial. I just couldn't see the fact that that was a bad thing, because it was happening so much. I didn't understand. I couldn't see it was a bad thing at all. It's so loud and it's so real what you're going through, and you're so self-consumed, so self-obsessed, that the only thing that matters is you getting that next bag. But then when you, on top of all of that, I'm somebody who was working and I had this really nice life. How on earth am I meant to see that this way of thinking is a bad way of thinking, when externally, in society's eyes, I'm doing well? It's just so difficult to explain really as well and comprehend, because that it's so strong when you're properly in active addiction. But it's that thing where you don't need to be somebody who's homeless to be in active addiction. You don't even need to be somebody who is using every single day. You could be somebody that uses every weekend, and you would be classed as an addict, because that way of thinking is, as soon as it hits Friday 5 p.m, you're at the boozer, and you don't understand any other way of life. And if somebody gets in the way of that for you, that's a problem. And why is that a problem? If somebody gets in the way of you going to a boozer at 5 p.m on a Friday, do you know what I mean? So that's another thing as well. You don't have to be a daily user to be an addict. Another way of looking at addiction is the fact that someone taught me that there is a habit. You've got a habit, healthy habit, then it becomes a problem, and then it becomes addiction. So healthy habit is going to the gym 3-4 times a week, or even 7 days a week, but you have your rest day. No, 6 days a week and have your rest day. That's healthy. It's good for you. But if you start doubling that up and then you're super tired, you're losing too much weight, you're not actually getting any muscle, you're actually losing more weight than yourself than you need to, that's becoming a problem because things aren't adding up. Do you know what I mean? And then an addict, you'd be going all the time and your whole mind is consumed about when you get into the gym, how many sessions you can do, how many hours you can do, what's your calories are you eating, what's your weight, all of that stuff, and it's just everything. That's when it's an addiction, and that's gym. So if you think about it in the drugs sense, your habit is a case of it's just the fun times, and I think every addict starts in the habit where it's just literally like a healthy habit, as in you go out every so often and you have a good time with your mates and you party and you do a bit. Do you know what I mean? Nothing too much, but it doesn't consume you. It doesn't cause any problems. You wake up a bit hungover, a bit on a come down, but then the next day you're back and you're doing your everyday, and no one's been hurt. You've not put yourself in debt or anything like that. And then it gets to a problem, and that's when things, you start maybe blacking out, or you use too much money, you start owing people, it starts affecting your performance at work, you're not really there for your family, etc. So that's when it's a problem. But I believe that you can bring it back to that habit, and then you get into addiction where everything, it's so all consuming, whereas you'll do anything to get that bag. You'll steal, you'll lie, you'll manipulate, your morals may change to doing what you need to do to get that money, to get those drugs, pardon me. And that's when it's an addiction. But you don't even know when that you cross the line. I have absolutely no idea when I crossed the line from habit to problem to an addict. No clue, couldn't tell you. It was all just seemed like I was having a good time until I got out of it, until I hit my rock bottom and then got out of it. It's actually crazy what it does to your mind, and how the denial that addiction makes you think is just insane. So yeah, it's a thinking disease, and the way you come out of it is all behavioral, and it's all to do with putting your good behaviors into action, and changing the way you behave, because you can't change the way you think, really. I will always be an addict when it comes to my thinking. I just accept that now, but I behave in certain ways where I show up when I don't want to fucking show up. I make sure I pay my bills when I need to pay my bills, and make sure that I don't owe money. I try and not manipulate. Again, I say I try because these behaviors within my addiction have been ingrained in me for so long. So I will do my very best to not do those bad behaviors, which is my defects. If you watch the episode of my steps, when I did step 4 and 5, that's when I found out all my defects. So I try and do the behaviors, but my addict brain will always be there. It ain't going nowhere. But I'm okay with that because I understand it now and I get it. And when I'm stressed, I shop because I need that quick fix. I try not to, but I do. Do you know what I mean? So that's the difference between what you think an addict is somebody who doesn't care about people, who doesn't give a shit, is just a waste, is just a bum and all of that stuff. Like, that is not an addict. To somebody that is seriously mentally not well at all, doesn't know where to go, how to change that, because all they ever know is what's going on in their head. It's so isolating. it makes you feel so lonely because of how self-consumed you are with whatever's going on with you at that point. It's controlling, it's just obsessive compulsive behaviors. So to get out of that, you have to work on yourself. And as I've always said, don't do it alone. Find your people and get the help, which is out there, definitely. So I hope that makes sense. I don't know whether that makes sense. I think I'm really tired today, so it's all just going everywhere. But I'm going to leave it there. Thanks.